For those who are new to preparedness, the whole concept can be quite overwhelming. I do get emails from time to time from individuals that seem to be fairly distressed. They've watched a few videos on YouTube from various people, and for whatever reason, they are in a state of panic, and they think that World War III is tomorrow, or aliens are coming down, next week, or whatnot. And there's a lot of valid reasons to be concerned, and then there's some reasons that you may not want to put so much emotion into. You may want to be more reserved and how you use your energy. But nonetheless, though, these individuals reach out and they ask, what should I do first? Now, I have videos on this, but I'd like to do just 10 things today for those individuals. 10 things, 10 recommendations, 10 points to start out if you're completely new to preparedness. And I would say this is the best way to go because you want to kind of make things as simple as possible. You want to break things down. And if the whole concept is completely overwhelming and it's very abstract, then you need to start somewhere. And so let's go ahead and start with number 1. And that is your water situation. I call it a situation because it's going to be a dire situation if you don't have water when you need it. Now, a lot of people, especially in this great country of ours here, the United States of America, a lot of people are on some type of municipal water source. That's not to say that there's not quite a few people on wells and cisterns. I, for one, I'm on a cistern, and some of my neighbors are on cisterns and wells. But unless you actually live in a large enough city that actually has what we call city water, then you're not going to have it, obviously. But most people do. Most people live in urban areas. That's just how it works. And a lot of people get used to being able just to turn the faucet and water comes out. But there are times that water doesn't come out, or if it does come out, there's contaminants in the water that could be very harmful. So in those situations where you have contamination or no water coming out of the faucet, what are you going to do? First of all, if you have your own water supply, then you're going to be in really a lot better shape than 99% of other people, because a lot of people are unprepared. And that's why I'm so glad that you're watching this video, because it comes down to taking responsibility for yourself and for your family. So have water in reserve. I'd say a minimum of around 3 gallons per person for every day that you want to have a reserve. And I would recommend, a 2 to 3 week reserve for each person in the family of water, potable water. And that's a good start. And a good and easy way to do that outside of like 50-gallon drums is to go to whatever store is in your area that sells, water jugs. You can get them like in 5, 6, 7, and I've even seen them in 8-gallon jugs that some of them even have spigots, and I'd recommend those as well. And get a few of those, or get as many as you need to, fulfill your needs for each member of the family. And you can store it in closets or in your pantry's floor, down in the basement. You can put them all over the place. You can spread them out. And so it's not like you just have a big pile of water jugs in the corner of your living room. And that wouldn't look good at all. So the first thing here is water and food. And the food part can be very simple as well. You can simply just grab a few extra canned goods when you're at the grocery each week. You don't have to set aside a few $100s, from the beginning and get stressed out about it. You can just grab a few extra things when you go out. And most people grocery shop 1 to 2 times a week. So if you just gather up, let's just say 2 extra cans each trip, and you go twice a week, there's 4 more cans you got that week that you didn't have before in reserve. And over time, it may take a few months, but over time you will get a pretty nice little stash. And I recommend to keep doing that until you have at least 2 to 4 weeks, minimal 2 to 4 weeks. But you'd always want to keep adding though. And have a good variety of foods too. Don't just get ravioli in every flavor and style. Try other things as well. The next thing here is going to be a power source outside of, whatever comes from your electric line. And power is really important. And I'm not saying you have to get some kind of gas generator or a large solar system, with big old battery banks and stuff that occupy a wall of your house. But I would say at least get something that can be used in an emergency to charge your phone and other devices. And it really wouldn't hurt to have some other backup systems to run lights and stuff in your home. And there's a lot of different options out there. And it just depends on your budget. So I'm not going to sit here and recommend about 20 things when they may not pertain to you. So do your research and spend a few minutes and look into what's available. The next thing is going to be lights. And we just talked about lights in the home, but what about lights on the person? That's going to be really important. It might be just more efficient if it's a short-term emergency to just issue everyone in the family a good rechargeable headlamp. And the headlamps these days, some of them run for literally dozens and dozens of hours. It's just really impressive. Not only just the battery technology, but the efficiency of the LEDs now are just really amazing. So it's very plausible on one charge, you could go a whole weekend or even a whole week on just, once again, whatever that was issued to you. So if you're a parent and you issue a headlamp to your kids, just tell them to be mindful that, you only have so much of a charge. And if they have 30 or 40 hours of runtime, you can go quite a bit if you actually start to be mindful of your use, And so lights are really important. And I would say headlamps are by far the number one. And then some type of aerial light. And maybe if you really want to splurge, get a nice searchlight. The next category here is going to be the emergency fund. And we're talking about at least a few $1,000s, minimal. I would say 3 months of living expenses. That's kind of really what I would consider the basics and a starting point, a goal, the first goal at least. But I just know a lot of people that have maybe just a few hundred set aside, and that can be very problematic because the cost of things these days, you can't really do much with a few $100s. So let's be realistic, though. I mean, there's all kinds of different types of emergencies that can happen. Everything from your car breaking down to something, catastrophic to your house to, just health issues. You could just lose your job and then you're in like a world of hurt. So have a backup means to pay bills. The next is going to be to do drills. And if you're by yourself, you can still do drills. I would still do them, but it's really important to do drills if you have kids in the home. And you should start at an early age and make it kind of fun too. And I would spread them out at different times of the day and different times of the week. And I would have at least 2 or 3 drills a month. Have like a fire drill one week, and then maybe the next week have a home invasion drill, and the next week after that maybe a tornado drill. And just practice and kind of let them really get comfortable with reacting and doing things under the concept that there's something that is threatening outside or something that's threatening inside the home. And so it's very important to do drills, and it's really important to not get into a panic mode when something stressful happens. And when you do drills, you kind of are able to bypass a lot of the panic because you develop some muscle memory, and you also have a plan that you can kind of work through to get through the stress. The next is going to be, can you deal with your bathroom needs if the power's out and there's no water? A lot of people can't deal with that, so I'm not saying have like 50 cases of wet wipes, but maybe have a case of wet wipes, put back in the bathroom. And also have some extra hand sanitizer that doesn't require water, maybe like alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Have a few, hand towels that are just set aside and never used unless it's an emergency. So you have some clean towels there. And have extra water so that you can flush the toilet if there's no water in it running through the system. And if the toilet just is all backed up, then you have maybe a porta pot of some type. You can even make a portable toilet from a 5-gallon bucket, and you can have liners with garbage bags, and you can line the actual bucket, and you can put like sawdust in there or kitty litter, whatever you prefer. And it's just one way to deal with human waste. What about your bug out bag? That's something that you always hear about within the prepping community. It's kind of like a gateway for the newbie to get into prepping, for a lot of people at least. And the bug out bag is important, but it really isn't the most important aspect of preparation. Research has shown that about 10% or less of all emergencies require you to leave your home. So with that information, we can see that the bug out bag is not really high on the list. It's important to have, and you should have one for egress emergencies. And you should have a location to go to, and a whole plan to deal with, emergencies that deal with egress. But the bug out bag should not be like the first thing you do, in my opinion. It's something you should do over time. Just like building your food pantry, you can make your bug out bag over time. And so maybe once a week you jump on Amazon or you go to your local big box store and you find something that actually will satisfy one of your needs and you put it in your bag. And then over time you practice with that item, you become comfortable with that item, and so forth. So you definitely want to work on your bug out bag, but you don't want to say it's the answer to all problems. The next is personal protection. Wow, this is a really kind of a big hot button topic for a lot of people. Some people dedicate their whole channel to this particular this category. And I would say, a good handgun would be really appropriate at first, just for your own personal safety. And for the home, I think it would be good to have a long arm, a shotgun or a rifle. I'm more partial to the rifle. Other people are much more into shotguns. It's just more of a preference. But they could be both very effective. But whatever it is that you pick and you feel comfortable with, just know that there are bad people out there that wouldn't really hesitate to hurt or kill you or your family to take what you have during an emergency. So you can be as naive as you can possibly be, but that doesn't really change the reality of how the world is. There's a lot of preppers that come into this field or this genre and they say, well, I just want to store a lot of goods and have that comfort from being prepared. But they don't realize that they need to also sometimes protect their goods. And while you don't want to be some kind of vigilante and be crazed about, all this weaponry. And if it's your hobby, then so be it. That's great too. I'm not against that at all. But you can go so overboard that some people define prepping as gun collecting. And it's just not the case. I think it's important to have a few really good, quality firearms and know how to use it and have some ammunition and have some good accessories for your firearms. But it doesn't make sense to me. And once again, it's your right to have more if you're a U.S. citizen. I think you should have as many guns as you want. I'm not against any of that. But for me, though, maybe like a couple rifles, a couple shotguns, maybe a couple handguns. Really, it's just about all a person needs. And but it just, depends on the person. So to me, I think it's good to kind of strike a good balance when you're first getting into preparedness. And if you don't have any knowledge about firearms or any other protective tools, maybe like pepper spray, pepper gel, or batons, or tactical flashlights, then you might want to start learning about all that and get training on at least something and acquire some type of tool to protect yourself and your family. Because once again, bad things do happen, even if you don't want to believe that they don't. they don't occur. So, you have to just kind of be honest with yourself and say, hey, I may not like firearms, or maybe I'm just scared of what I don't know, but I'm going to move forward and I'm going to do a few things to make things a little safer in my home. The next is first aid. This is huge. Getting the skills to know how to use the first aid gear and supplies is probably the top of the list there in terms of this category. And then the supplies needs to be good quality. You don't want to go and get the cheapest Band-Aids and the cheapest bandages and the cheapest tourniquet. And, just because you want to save $5 here and there, doesn't mean that it's going to be something that you want to have in a real emergency. In a real emergency, you probably want the best of the best, or at least stuff that really works well. So get trained, get the stuff, and don't just have a boo-boo kit. Don't just have a general first aid kit. You want a nice trauma kit. In fact, if you have kids or you have a larger family, you probably want a very extensive trauma kit. You probably want to get trained multiple, or at least training multiple times a year to keep things fresh. And you probably want to have multiple trauma kits as well. And maybe not just in the home, but in your vehicles. And lastly here, just to kind of help you get started if you're a new prepper, and I'm hoping these items really helped you. But this last one here is really good as well, because sometimes the internet is just not available. And if we have a grid down situation and there's no telecommunications, maybe there's not even radio, and you need to access information, good reference books are going to be worth its weight in gold. And so you want to create your own personal library at some point. And this can be done very slowly and over time. I'm not saying to go to Amazon right now and buy 50 books and spend $1,000. But I am saying, though, maybe like once a month, you actively pursue acquiring a good reference on something. It could be, once again, on first aid. It could be how to build something, how to do basic carpentry skills. It could be other types of skill building reference. And I think this is something that we all need to really do more of, is to build our own personal library. And so I hope, once again, this helped. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And if you have any comments, feel free to leave those as well. Hope everyone's doing great, and we're getting close to Thanksgiving. And so, hey, if I don't talk to you before Thanksgiving, I hope and wish everyone the very best. And I hope everyone eats lots of turkey, and I'll catch you later.